Hello, welcome to the 1443rd, I think, episode of One Thing Today and the 20th episode of Go Gently. And finally, the snow has arrived in my corner of Wales and it's lovely to be out in the snow. Would you like to join me for a walk? Let's go for a stroll together. I've come just a little way along the road from the bottom of my lane, a walk that I haven't taken you on before, and actually one I've not been on for a very long time. It's a walk that goes through some forestry land, and if I do the whole walk it would be quite a long, large circular walk that actually does end at my front door, but I don't think I'm quite up to that today. But I thought it would be nice just to come out for a little bit of a stroll and look at the snow. I really wanted to show you the snow. I don't know how long it's going to last for. It fell over a couple of days a few days ago. It was quite thick for a while, but has melted along the paths, but still, as you can see on the hill, is still good and white and quite beautiful. It's the end of my offline week. If you're following me on Patreon, you'll know that I've been taking a week offline. I can't remember if I said in the last Go Gently podcast that was my plan or not. I might have done, and because I'm offline I didn't want to go back and watch the podcast to find out what I'd said. And it's been quite a successful week. It's been much easier than I thought it would be. Certainly much easier than the last time I tried, which wasn't terribly successful. And the time before, back in November, it went well. I had a good offline week, but I seem to remember it was quite a challenge to stay offline. I was doing things like finding myself reaching for my phone and clicking on to apps and websites before I knew what I was doing. I did stop myself, but nonetheless I was doing it. And this time, just haven't wanted to, haven't felt the need to. In fact, it's been quite, it sort of felt quite ordinary, which in some ways feels a bit disappointing, but in others I think is probably quite healthy, actually. And I've been noticing that I'm finding it much easier just to sit and stare into space, which was something I was doing at Gladstone's library quite a lot, so maybe I'm just in practice. But in the evenings especially, I've been going to bed quite early, but not going to sleep straight away, and doing a bit of reading, maybe a bit of crocheting, but also just staring, thinking, pondering, daydreaming. Which has been rather nice. And something that I particularly noticed was that I've been dreaming a lot. I'm remembering my dreams. I mean, I probably do dream, but I don't tend to remember them. And this week I had quite a lot of quite big dreams, and remembering them all, and finding that quite interesting. Oh, I was forgetting just how steadily uphill this walk is, and I've probably not done it before when I've been talking and walking, but we'll see how we get on. This walk quite a lot, this bit of it at least. And I noticed today, as I was walking on the road to get here, but it felt like quite a long way to the start of it. Yeah, I think probably I do take much shorter walks these days than I used to, which is a good thing. I think I need to take shorter walks, and I'm more able to do them more regularly because of that. But it's interesting coming on a walk that I used to do and comparing. Though actually, I think comparing either with others or even with ourselves isn't such a good idea, so I shall stop doing that. Gosh, look, isn't that beautiful? I don't know if you can see as well as I can the light on the trees here. It's quite beautiful. That looks amazing. And it feels so quiet. I didn't bring my microphone out with me, and I think probably we're okay. So this path goes up a little bit further and then bends round to the left and goes up again. And I remember really clearly walking up to this path and getting towards the bend and seeing a fox standing at the end of the path. And because I've seen one once, I often wonder if I'll see one again when I get to this point. I think probably the colder weather they're more willing, or perhaps they just feel it more necessary to be out and about. So during the day's shorter, looking for food. Perhaps it's more likely to see them. I think probably the thing to do is just aim for the top here and perhaps decide then that it's time to go back home. Because home is probably, from this spot, is probably 15-20 minutes away. I don't want to make too big a walk. Of course it's downhill on the way home, so that should be a lot easier. Might have been sensible to record this going down. Didn't think of that. Gosh, it does feel quite otherworldly with the snow. And it's a really good time of day to come out. I'm not sure, it must be about, I don't know, 2:30, maybe 3 o'clock. And of course the days are getting longer now, so the sun's not setting here until just after 5. You've definitely got through the darkest time, but I wonder if winter itself is only now really getting underway. So fresh, the air is so fresh. Footprints in the snow, not the only person here. I was just thinking it's very quiet. Obviously people have been walking here. It feels so lovely. Can you hear the crunch of the snow? Yeah. Boots and dog. I wonder actually, could even be my next door neighbour. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, this is where as far as I'm going to go. So the path does go on both ahead of me and up there as well. That direction, if I kept going, and then did a very steep climb, I get to the opposite peak to my house. And if I walked across and then down, I get to my front door. That would probably be, I don't know, 45-minute walk from here with a lot of up. And I think one of the things I've been learning and remembering since I started making these walks, these videos of these walks, is that shorter is better for me. So I shall head home in a moment. And it would be lovely if you would like to join me for 20 minutes of creative work. We can spend 20 minutes together working on our current creative projects. I think I shall be in front of my fire again. Thank you very much for your company. I shall see you soon. Well, I'm not by my fire, I'm in my studio, which is the first time. I was trying to remember, I think it's the first time since I've had a work session out here since the middle of December. I have popped out here once or twice to do a couple of little pottering about things, but I haven't really been out here in any meaningful way for a couple of months. So it feels quite nice, it feels quite significant to be out here as we're approaching the middle of February. It's actually a week since I took you on that walk, and I've had quite an up and down week since then. I think the walk was probably a bit more than was wise. It's certainly more than I've been used to. But I loved it, and it was so lovely to be out in the snow, and I'm really glad that I went out that day, because either the following day or the day after it rained and the snow went, and we've had no snow since. So it was good to have seized the moment a little. So I'm very glad to have gone out. However, a week has gone by, so it really is time to finish off this podcast and get it posted. So I shall set my timer in a minute, and I have a new timer to show you, but first I'm just going to pour out some coffee. It was really nice getting ready to come out here this morning for this work session. I went through my usual routine of making myself a hot drink, and I made coffee today and putting it in my flask and bringing it out. And yeah, it was just nice to get back into that routine. And I wasn't sure that I was quite ready for it. I haven't been sure that I've been quite ready for it. I've been quite enjoying working in the house by the fire. But this morning, it felt like the right thing to do. So I don't know, I might go back and forth between the studio and the house this coming month. But we'll just see what happens. We shall see what happens. However, whilst I'm not by my fire, as I said I thought I would be, I am working on my purple sock. So I'm looking forward to doing a bit more work on that in a moment. It's been a while. If you've been following on Patreon this week, you will have seen me doing some work on this. But yeah, this is the second in the pair that I started all months ago now. So I'm looking forward to getting down to that. So let's set a timer. And I have this gorgeous new timer to show you that I was sent as a present. So let's wind him up. There we go, 20 minutes on the Moomin. Good luck with whatever you're planning on working on. This week on Patreon, I've been holding what I've been calling an open house, and I've been inviting people just to come and join us. And all the content there has been free this week and available to everybody, just to give you an idea of what I do there. And if you missed the open house this week, the content is going to still be available. It's not going anywhere. So I'll pop a link below to that. I've made a separate tag for all the open house stuff, so I can link to all of the open house stuff. But you can get an overview of what I do on Patreon by just visiting patreon.com/gogently. I'm really enjoying the Patreon. the work I'm doing there, and I'm sort of getting quite excited about about the way things there might develop. We shall just see what happens. But do pop over. I've just before I started recording this, I just made a vlog post about a giveaway that I've put together to celebrate the end of the open house week, and it's open to everybody. So do pop over and enter if you would like to win. I'm giving away a couple of books. One that I've really enjoyed reading myself this winter, and another is a book that I've made. So that's all there on Patreon. Perhaps I'll put a separate link to that as well. The closing date for that is Sunday the can't do dates in my head. The 17th of February. So it's a week today from when I'm recording this. I'm hoping to get this recorded and get the podcast up probably for tomorrow. So you'll have almost a week if you watch this as soon as it comes out to enter. And I'll be announcing the results in just over a week, or the result in just over a week. So do pop over if you'd like to enter that. It's been a bit of an up and down week this week for me. As I said at the beginning, I do think that the walk that I did was probably stretching myself a bit further than I was ready to be stretched, but I'm still very glad that I did it. And I have been, sort of physically rather up and down since then, which culminated in really needing to spend the best part of 3 days in bed at the end of the week. But this morning, touch wood, feeling sort of back to my old self. I'm pleased about that, but very aware. Sorry, I'll just do this stitch. Yes, very aware that this time of year is often a bit of a danger time for me. I think sort of the returning light always sort of tempts me into doing more than is perhaps wise. So I want to keep an eye on that, but at the same time, just enjoy the fact that actually energy. Well, I think energy probably is a little bit on the rise, but it's not as much as I think and hope it is. But I think there is a rise in energy, but also just a rise in ideas and feeling a bit excited about life. I've really, really enjoyed this winter. I've had the most enjoyable winter I've had in years this year, and I think that has been because I have followed my energy and rested as I've needed to. And I had thought and hoped that February would continue in that vein. But it seems that that things are changing, and I suppose part of the point of following my energy is to actually follow it. So if things are rising a little, perhaps I do need to allow myself to explore that a bit, but just to be aware and to be careful. So which is part of the reason I'm out here today, actually, instead of by the fire, because I felt like I wanted to be, and actually it isn't really a higher energy activity coming out here. It's not as warm as in the house, so that's a bit of a downside, though. I've had the heater on for a long time, so it's warming up out here a bit. But I suppose it feels less hibernatory being out here, and maybe that is okay. Maybe that's okay. Things are sort of changing around me, whether I want them to or not. My neighbours move in a couple of weeks. yeah. I have a couple of other things which are changing, which actually I'm not quite ready to share yet. Good things. But I just want to know they're happening or they've happened before I talk about them. But one of those is going to necessitate changing things in here a little to make room for something. So yeah, so that's happening. So there is kind of change and movement. So I think I just need to be careful around it, but I want to enjoy it. So it's just something to ponder around, I think. If you did join us on Patreon this week, you'll know that one of the things I do there is have a weekly, or most weeks, have a pondering session where I set my timer and I just sort of probably write. Usually, sometimes I sit and stare and sometimes I crochet, but it's a silent session. Bit of chat at the beginning and at the end, but mostly it's the actual core of it, a silent session. And that sort of pondering I do find useful. So I think in the next session I am going to ponder around this idea of rising energy, but also just being careful with it. Looking after myself. But it is nice. It's nice to be feeling a bit excited about life. This time last year, I was in a much darker place, and last year was hard. And it is lovely to be in a place where I'm looking forward to the expanding, the opening up of the year. And I do hope the same for you. I hope that if you're in the Northern Hemisphere at least, and your seasons are similar to mine, that this sort of slow unfolding at the beginning of the year is going well for you. I think you're perhaps allowing it to be a slow unfolding rather than a sudden rush to newness. I imagine if you're watching this podcast, you're probably already somebody that takes things quite slowly. And I think sort of, putting our nose out into the world in the middle of February is, that sounds about right. That's okay. Got a knot in my wool. There we are. No, it's not a knot. It just looked like one. So what are you working on today, I wonder? It is really nice to be back working on these socks. I've been quite excited about them this week, but I knew I wanted to be working on it in this work session. So I've been only doing little bits. If you watched the work session I did on Patreon last week, or if you go and watch it now during the open house, you'll see that I haven't actually made much progress. I've made a little bit since that session, but I suspect I could have finished these by then, or at least got to the ribbing by now. But I didn't want to. I wanted to be doing it during this session. So I've held back a bit, and maybe that is a good way of looking at things, is holding back a little bit, just a little. And it's really interesting coming back to these after such a long time as well. I was quite struggling with them. I didn't want to do them during work sessions because I had to count a lot, and I was finding it really, really hard just to see where each row ended and the next one started. But I just see that now, and also I was finding it very difficult to crochet these in anything but really good daylight because it's such a dark yarn. But again, I've been finding it fine just to work on them in in the early morning when I wake up, I let myself do a round when I first wake up, and I'm not really having a problem with that either. So something's changed a bit since working on that blanket and then on the cushion cover. So that's exciting. And I just really, really am enjoying crocheting. So pleased that I just decided to let myself do that. Not worry at all about what it meant or where it would take me, but just did it. And there's something really lovely about making something to wear. I've been wearing the other pair of socks that I made a lot this winter. I was wearing them at Gladstone's library, which felt lovely. It'll be good to have a second pair. I would like to make more, but I think I am just going to go on with the blanket, the smaller version of the blanket I was making last year. And then come back to some socks, maybe. I need to find the video that I used to show me how to make that blanket, because I can't remember how I started it. I know once I got going it was really easy. I was just repeating 3 stitches. But yeah, I can't remember how I started. I'm sure I'll be able to find it. I'm sure I posted a link actually during one of these podcasts. So if I could probably look back at these if I can't find it, but it's probably my liked videos on YouTube, isn't it? I said during the work session on Patreon this week that I'd finished my cushion cover that I've been making, and I forgot to take any photos of it to share. I think I was still working on that, wasn't I, during the last the last of these podcast work sessions. I do get a bit muddled. But yeah, I was really sorry to have forgotten to take some photos, but I am seeing the friend I gave it to in a little over a week, so I will ask her if I can take some photographs. And also, I'm going, hopefully, going to be house sitting for her. She's got a little flat in Aberystwyth, in the town itself, and she's going away for a while at the end of the month. End of May, not this month, end of March rather, not the end of February. So I'm going to house sit, and hopefully then I'll record a work session, I'm sure, while I'm there, and I can show you the cushion then. But yeah, I was sorry not to remember to either take some photos or even take a bit of video of it to share. But I was really pleased with it in the end. It worked out quite well. I mean, there were a few things I would do differently next time, and I hope there is a next time. I'd quite like to make another one. I have all these things, I want to make, and I am slow, so I just need to enjoy. I just need to enjoy what I'm making as I'm making it, not think or plan too far ahead. But if I do make another cushion cover, there are a couple of things I would change. But yeah, it was good. It worked well, so I was pleased with it, and she seemed pleased with it. And actually, one of the things I would have changed would have been to include some buttons. And actually, she told me she doesn't like cushion covers with buttons. So actually, for her, perhaps it was it was just fine the way it was. But yeah. But I did enjoy making it. I did. It was a good project to do over a month really. It started off as a Christmas project, but it did take me a month and more actually. But there we are. That's all right. And it was nice just to have. It was nice to have a project to do over that sort of very hibernatory core of the winter. And I shall remember that. I shall remember that this winter was about that cushion cover. It was about one of the two of the books that I read, one in particular, which is one of the ones I'm giving away over on Patreon, so do go and have a little peep at that. Yeah, and food as well, certain foods I think. Quite a lot of comfort food, bubble and squeak. I made bubble and squeak quite a lot. And walks with my lovely new gloves and scarf. I'm talking a bit, aren't I, as if the winter is over? I don't know. Maybe it's just entering a different phase, a new phase. I don't really think it's quite over yet, but there is a certain energy to the light and the weather. You can probably hear the rain at the moment. There's a certain spring in. It's got a certain spring in its step, the weather. At the moment. It would be nice to have a bit of a spring in my step, but I'm not quite there yet. In fact, that's not rain, that's hail. That's hail falling outside. That's very wintry, isn't it? Well, actually, that's quite spring-like too, isn't it? Hail, I think. And we've been having some incredibly blustery weather. I was walking in the woods yesterday evening, and I think there were some more trees down. It was a year ago. If you listened to the One Thing Today podcast. In fact, I wasn't recording them a year ago, so I'm sure I've told you about it anyway, that lots of trees came down in the woods where I walk this time last year. And I think I must have made some podcasts about it. I remember talking about it. And there are some new ones this year. I think the soil there can get so waterlogged. We've had some very high winds, so yeah, it does seem very sad. Though not as shocking as it felt last year, actually, because a lot of the downed trees have sort of taken on a new life of their own. So I can see that sort of within that, from that devastation, lots of new things happen. Which is a very good thing to remember. So I didn't feel quite as upset seeing new trees down, and there weren't as many by any means. Anyway, time to stop babbling. I hope you've had a good 20 minutes. It's been lovely spending some time with you. Please do let me know what you've been getting up to. I'm a little bit behind with replying to comments, but I will endeavour to reply to some this time. I've just been moving very, very slowly. But I do see them all. They all arrive in my email, so I read them all, even if I don't get to reply to them all straight away. So do let me know what you've been working on. Let me know how you are. Let me know if spring is arriving for you. If you're in the northern hemisphere, and if you're in the southern hemisphere, I suppose that means is autumn arriving for you. Let me know where you are in the seasons and how it feels, and how perhaps you're working with that, and perhaps changing your behaviour a little bit around the seasons, and just something to ponder on anyway, I think. Take care. I shall see you very soon. Do pop over to Patreon and take a look at the open house. There's lots of stuff there, and do enter the giveaway. I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.